All right. Good morning. It's a couple days till we have another rowdy game day. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you? How's Ecuador?
It's going great. Never been better.
All right.
It's I've got some Ecuadorian coffee, which is always good. Did you have a
Hopefully,
good week?
I did. Even with that game on Saturday, I still had a pretty good week.
Yeah, so I gave myself kind of the 24-hour rule. I did come back obviously on Monday night, do a recap, but I only let it bother me. I listened to Coach McGuire and I only let it bother me for about even less than 24 hours. I would say I got up and went to church the next morning and had my coffee and everything after church, and I was upset, but I was okay at that point. So I gave myself even a little less than 24 hours to get over it.
Well, good deal, man. That's probably the way to handle it. So glad to hear it.
All right, so the Oregon Ducks,
Yep.
they're a problem.
Yeah, I tend to agree that
All right.
this is not a good week two opponent for what we're coming off.
All right, so I like the format last week. Let's start it off the same. I think it's the same way. I think we did worst case scenario first.
Yep.
What is your worst case scenario for Saturday night? And what Joey McGuire is calling, I think he called it. I didn't see the press conference or the article, but I think he called it the most important home opener since 1977 is how
Wow.
he's selling it to the team. I think I saw that somewhere. I'm not sure if he said it or if someone else said it. But that's been floated out there. I don't even know what I don't obviously that I wasn't even alive in 1977. But so what's your worst case scenario for this game Saturday night?
Well, hey, first off, hey, most important home game since 1977. Hey, no pressure or anything.
Right, right. Yeah, he's not he reminds me. I was talking to my cousin who went to the University of Texas, and we're very close. And I was telling him that he is the coach that most reminds me of Jimmy Johnson since he coached for the Cowboys. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Joey McGuire, but he is a bold guy and he does not care what anybody thinks. He's gonna speak his mind, and I hope he never changes. I love that part about him.
I know
So
I tend to agree with you there, bud.
worst case, what do you think Saturday night?
Okay, so worst case scenario, I think if we don't show up at all, I see a 49-24 type beating. I think that if you look at the recruiting rankings over the years, and I think those recruiting rankings aren't perfect, but they're pretty good. I think Oregon's in the top 15, top 20 every year. They have a lot of speed guys. And I think there's a possibility that they could shred our defense, to be completely honest. They're fast and they're pretty big. And hey, they're throwing NIL money around like little pieces of candy. So they have some top notch talent coming in, and I think their coaching staff is led by Dan Lanning. I think their coaching staff is excellent too. So we have our work cut out for us. That's my worst case scenario. I'm going to say 49-24 Oregon, which would be obviously a sound beating.
Are you implying that Oregon fans might occasionally keep up with the Nike stock?
Yeah, just a little bit.
So this is a weird one for me because I think in a way we don't really know um, that much about either team, believe it or not, because I think the deal in Laramie was such a strange game with the altitude. I'm not blaming the loss on the altitude, but I mean it definitely was a factor. We it was a strange home. It was a strange opener on the road. We haven't won an opener on the road in a long time, so I'm not sure if that completely tells the story of our season. I do think it was a season changing loss, but I don't think we know all. I don't think we know all that much about Tech really, and I really don't think we know all that much about Oregon because Portland State is such a bad team. But I actually could see a disaster, a home opener. similar to, I remember it was either, I think it was my second year at Tech when Nebraska just when they just completely destroyed us. I could see something like that where it would just be a disaster. Like the worst, we're talking worst case scenario, 56-7 is my worst case scenario.
That's a pretty solid thrashing. But
It would
I
be bad. It would be a really, really bad night. It would be really, really bad for the program. They can talk all they want about a 24-hour rule, but if something like that happens Saturday, it's going to be it's going to be longer than 24 hours.
right.
Best case scenario.
Okay, best case scenario, I think we lose by 7 to 10 points. I think Vegas had the spread at 6.5, which I mean, if I'm being honest, Taylor, if I'm a betting man, I'm taking Oregon to cover that. But I see I seem to be hung on this 24 points for Tech, but I see a 31-24 type loss, maybe 34-24 Oregon, best case scenario. But I think either way you slice it, Oregon is covering the spread on this one. I feel about as confident with that as I did with TCU and Colorado last week. And I said, hey, Colorado to cover that 21 points, and they won. So
These games are hard to predict.
really are, dude.
I think Vegas, somewhere along the line, they figured out that Lubbock, Texas, is a tough place to play, and so I think that that's why the line is the way that it is. I'm actually factoring in just the fact that we have a firebrand head coach. We have a veteran team. I'm factoring in that it's a night game, or at least a good portion of this game we played under the lights. And so I actually think best case scenario, everything would have to go our way would be, and I struggled with this because I actually was going to go with an Oregon win in the best case scenario, but I changed my mind. The more I read and the more I've seen, I've been really impressed, particularly with the way Coach McGuire and Coach DeRuiter have responded to the loss. So I'm actually going to say best case scenario 51-48 Tech. And that would be a miracle, and that would be one of the best Tech home games for me. It would be one of the best Tech home games ever, which we're going to talk about in a second. All right. What do you think about that? You think I'm crazy?
Yeah, I think it's like, yeah, it's
All right. Well, I am crazy, so you're
hey,
right. You're right.
last few marbles have been lost. But hey, that's a lot of
Okay.
it's like
All
losing
right.
a basketball game, you know.
All right. Fair enough. What do you think's actually going to happen?
I think we're gonna come out, we're gonna be pretty mad from a week ago. You're right. Lubbock at nighttime can be pretty hostile, and we have a tendency to play very well at nighttime. And I think that's what the odds makers are looking at. But I think no matter how hard we play, Shuck will obviously be pretty. Tyler Shuck is going to be highly motivated, but I don't see any way we win this game, man, unless Oregon just has some kind of meltdown. I hope to be wrong because hey, I was wrong in my prediction last week. So I don't see any way we win this game, and I'm just being honest. I always have been. I'm a tech as big of a Tech homer as there is, but I think Oregon's just got too many. I think Oregon's got a better coaching staff. They have better players, which is going to not equate to much. But Taylor, I'll say this last bit about
You
this.
said better coaching staff. You think they have a better coaching staff?
I think Oregon does have a slightly better coaching staff. They do. Um,
Wow.
here, but anything could happen. And I part of me thinks that the team really did potentially overlook Wyoming completely to get to this game, and that was one of the reasons we came out flat. Maybe that's me making excuses, probably is, but part of me wonders if that didn't happen in week one. And I will leave it with that.
I don't believe they have a better coaching staff. I do think they are a better team. I did a written prediction and analysis that I posted on the old school Facebook group. So there's my shameless plug. They're really deep at pretty much every position. They're really talented across the board. on offense and defense. They don't seem like they're quite as good on special teams, but when you blow a team out 81-7, how much do you really know about their special teams except for that they're really good at kicking extra points? I think that what's going to happen is I think Tech's going to play really hard. I think that despite what everyone's saying or what a lot of people are saying, I don't think that the Tech fans are going to waver a bit. I think there's some outliers and stuff like that. But we are a very passionate, dedicated fan base. We're gonna turn out. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. I think we're going to show some flashes. I think ultimately we'll lose 35-21 to Oregon. I just think that they're a little bit too talented for us, or not a little bit. They're too talented for us. I think.
Good analysis, man.
All
Good analysis.
right. So the question for the week, besides the Michael Crabtree game, which I think we all kind of agree on that one. Those of us who lived through it. Besides the Michael Crabtree game, your three favorite Tech home games, which for me, if we were to beat Oregon on Saturday and pull off the upset, that game would certainly challenge, most likely would make my list. But besides the Crabtree game, starting with go 3, 2, 1, your three favorite Tech home games of all time.
All right, man. Hey, great question. Great question. Give me a brain teaser this early. All right, so if I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, it's a good thing. You know what? As I'm thinking about it, Taylor. So if we're gonna go 3, 2, 1, number three for me would be Texas Tech versus Missouri. I think it was 2000. It was either 2010 or 2011. I think it was 2010 because I remember Tuberville was coach.
I think it was
They,
his first year. I think you're right.
I think number 4 or 5 coming in, and they had that overrated quarterback. I can't remember his name, but he played in the NFL for a number of years. But they were supposed to beat us, and
Played at
we
South Lake Carroll, I think.
something like that. But we beat them pretty soundly in that game. But they were ranked, I think, number 4 or number 5, and we beat them pretty good in that game. So that's 2010 for that one. The next one would be versus Oklahoma in 2005. Do you remember that one where
Yeah, that one almost made my list. I would give that one an honorable mention for sure. That was a crazy game with that call at the end. It was controversial, and it
it,
got, and
well,
it
it
got
was
us into
they spotted Amendola, I think, he was about a yard short of the marker, and they gave him a first down. Then we went on to score and win the game. So every OU fan I know still brings that one up, and I'm like, hey guys, bitter much? So that one's fun. I like to remind them too. But that's number two, and then number one, because we got to take the Crabtree 2008 game out, right? But
yeah, we're taking
2000,
that one out.
2002 versus Texas when we came back late and beat them, and it was basically we traded touchdowns all day. That's the best. And in fact, I would go as far to say that is the best football game I've ever seen in person at any level. Just excitement, pure. You were there with me. The fan base was absolutely electric. That place was going absolutely nuts. And I think Texas was ranked fourth or fifth at that time too, and we ruined their season after that.
That was a great game. That one made my list for sure.
Man,
So I like your list. So for me, number three is actually 2007, when we upset OU. I believe they were ranked. I looked it up last night. I believe they were ranked third in the country, and we upset them in 2007. And that, to me, that was the game that kind of set up the year. The 2008 year went a long way to kind of put us on the map for that season. I also watched that one with my father. This is actually his Tech. He passed away, as you know. This is my father's Tech hat, so that game is really meaningful for me. He actually kicked me out of my childhood home twice for, as he says, not acting like an adult, and welcome me back to the house if I could could at some point return to acting like an adult. That wasn't one of the games, but there were two that he actually kicked me out of my own childhood home, and I actually ended up going out to the car and listening to the game and the on the radio, the games on the radio. I believe one of those games was one of the Iowa State losses that was really bad under Tuberville. I don't remember the other one. So 2007 at home against OU when we defeated them. The second one, obviously the Crabtree game's not is out. The second one was a game that I watched with you in the South End Zone against Texas in 2002. That was an incredible football game, and I would also say that was probably the best one of the best sporting events that I saw in person, other than the next one that I'm going to mention. This one's kind of a sleeper, and probably a lot of people don't talk about it. But for me, it's the game where I just fell head over heels in love with Texas Tech football. It was actually my first year at Tech, 1999. We had lost to UNT, I think, in the opener or one of the first few games. It's we're talking about what are we talking about 24, 25 years ago now. So 1999, when we defeated a highly ranked Texas A&M team when they came in. I don't think they finished the season highly ranked, but when they came to Lubbock, they were highly ranked. I went to high school with several Aggies, and they were talking big, and we had just lost to North Texas, and it was Spike Dykes last season. I think most people kind of knew it was going to be Spike Dykes last season, and with Sammy Morris, we just ran the ball on A&M and pulled the upset. That is probably the greatest game I've seen in person. Not necessarily because of the actual game, but it was just my first really amazing Texas Tech football experience. So I put those as the top three.
Nice. Good choices, man. Good choices.
All right, you want to add anything else this week?
No, I think we've covered it all, man. I think I do believe we will come out and play pretty hard. I think when Oregon does pull away, I don't think it'll be until the second half. I think we're gonna play hard, and we're gonna battle for a while. They're gonna see some fight in us. They are. We're not just gonna lay down and let them, do their thing.
I agree. I would add that no matter what happens Saturday night, and I know that if we lose, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be painful, especially if they kind of lay it on us. However, I think we have to remember that the season is definitely not over. Even if we lose, this team can still become bowl eligible, can still win a bowl game, and the future is still very bright in Lubbock without question, in my opinion.
Totally agree, buddy. Totally agree.
All right, have a great day. We'll talk soon.
See ya.